Hello everybody and welcome back. As always, I am Mateo311 and this is your channel for everything VR related. As of right now, we're about halfway through 2025 and we've already seen some banger titles like Hitman World of Assassination, The Midnight Walk, Ghost Town, and Arcanage, just to name a few. Well, I'm currently looking at a list of over 50 VR games still planned to release this year, but I'm going to break it down to my 20 most anticipated titles. Now, if you have any games that you're really excited for, or I forgot to mention something, please let me know what it is down in the comments. Now, this list has been organized by expected release date, and there are of course links and timestamps if you want to skip ahead, but let's start things off with Zombie Army VR. This World War II co-op zombie shooter is just around the corner after multiple delays. Similar to Sniper Elite VR, this is a spin-off of the Flat series, featuring its own unique storyline. It will, however, carry over the same brutal action, and of course that iconic X-ray kill cam. Now, this title was originally planned to release late in 2024, but has received multiple delays. Now, I'm hoping that results in an extra polished release, but honestly, all I'm expecting is some fun shooter action that I could play with a buddy. Think of it like Arizona Sunshine with a grittier tone. But if you rather push deeper into the horror aspect, OVRDark is finally making its way onto the Quest. After a successful release on Steam VR and the PlayStation VR 2, Questers will finally get to experience this intense horror game. Overall, it's one of those titles that's a slow burn with high tension, separated by some mild puzzle solving. Now, I know horror games aren't for everyone, but if you love those type of titles, you're gonna want to check this out. But to change up the pace, we're getting the survival title Neolithic Dawn. Prepare to jump into the lifestyle of a 10,000 BC hunter-gatherer. Besides your daily fight for food and shelter, you get to tame some wild animals, battle prehistoric beasts, and just immerse yourself in the Stone Age. I've had my eye on this game for quite some time, and while survival titles aren't my normal go-to genre, I tend to really enjoy them in VR, so I'm absolutely pumped for this one. But let's move on to Warriors, because VR can always use a good new shooter. Designed to be a cutting-edge blend of realism and adrenaline-pumping action, Warriors is an upcoming skill-based shooter with 7 distinct gameplay modes. This includes all the classics like Kill Confirmed, Team Deathmatch, Capture the Flag, Free-for-all, Search and Destroy, Conquest, Rush, and Zombie mode. Now, I personally love the art style. It's reminding me a lot of Army of Two, but I am, however, concerned about a multiplayer shooter that's pcvr only. It's hard to maintain a player base on pcvr, and sure, you can play against bots, but who really wants to do that? Now, to completely change things up, we have Vertigo Rush, a surprisingly good-looking 12-person parkour racing game. Now, personally, I'd say I'm a bit more intrigued rather than excited for this game, mainly because it's really different than what we traditionally get. Generally, these parkour titles look very childish or take a minimalistic approach. Well, that is definitely not the case here. They are pushing some high-quality graphics, and there's even a narrative-driven storyline as you take on the role of 2 siblings fighting against oppression. Now, I'm not completely sure if that's enough to keep me sucked into a parkour racing game, but I definitely need to give it a try. Similar to our next title, Dixotomia. Now, we are jumping back to the shooter genre, but this time we're taking on the role of Special Ops Contractor and going up against a cult of vampires. Now, I guess at least that's a nice change from killing zombies, and the game also promises to offer up challenging boss fights, intense action, diverse locations, a storyline where you could actually impact the game's ending, and they're also planning to push standalone VR graphics to the max. Overall, this sounds like a solid combination, and we'll just have to see how it pans out. Now, rather than just running and gunning, let's utilize our engineering skills for maximum destruction in Besiege. Now, this is a VR version of the beloved 2020 game, which utilizes both physics and construction in order to take on and destroy your enemies. Now, I've always been interested in this game, but never got around to the flat version, so I definitely won't make the same mistake when it releases on the Meta Quest. And speaking of Quest ports, but this time the other way around, one of my favorite Quest titles, Dungeons of Eternity, is finally making its way onto pcvr. This co-op RPG title has you going on a bunch of distinct dungeon runs with a few of your VR buddies. Once inside, you'll be battling enemies with physics-based combat, including an array of melee and ranged weapons, plus a couple of unique spells and potions. Overall, the game has an extremely addictive vibe where you just jump in, try to get some loot, battle enemies, level up, and then keep doing it over and over again. The only thing at all missing from this game is top quality graphics, which I'm sure the pcvr version will remedy, and that's why I can't wait to jump into it. Now, sticking with games that I absolutely love, it looks like my favorite VR tower defense title, Iron Guard, is planning to give us some more action with Iron Guard Salvation. We're still getting plenty of fast-paced strategic action, but it looks like there's all new levels, the ability to command some heroes, and a massive arsenal of over 25 different turrets. Now, I rarely ever play tower defense games in VR, but I found Iron Guard a very long time ago and fell in love. Every night I'd spend about 30 to 60 minutes in this game, and since there's a ton of different gameplay, that lasted for over 2 months. So if you have any interest in tower defense titles, keep Iron Guard Salvation on your radar. But if you had to guess what genre is coming up next, you'd definitely be safe to go with another horror-themed shooter. Don't be disappointed though, because I've already played Memoreum back at Gamescom, and I'm really excited for this game. It's inspired by some old school shooters, and definitely has a distinct Dead Space feel to it. Overall, the sound design was awesome, it had the perfect level of jump scares and tension, and I still felt like a badass mowing down these monstrosities. Now, graphically, it was a very solid Quest experience that does an excellent job with the lighting effects, but after other titles this year like Arcane Age and Hitman, it's hard not to want something that's a little bit prettier. Regardless, I still expect this to be a top quality shooter, and I'll definitely be covering this one in the future. Now, if you could live without the shooter action and just want the creepy atmosphere, we have Confined, leaving OKB-143. Now, besides the mouthful of a title, this looks like it's going to be a pretty solid game. It's releasing simultaneously in flat and VR modes, which seems to be a winning combination lately. Confined is another one of those horror puzzle adventure titles, and this one has you locked in an abandoned Soviet bunker. I'm sure there's absolutely nothing bad going on in there, no monsters to hide from, or weird old school mysteries. After the releases of Ghost Town, The Midnight Walk, and Out of Sight, I find myself more intrigued for these style of games, but I'm just not sure if its more serious tone will make it or break it. But it's always good to try something new, and that's why I'm looking forward to Laser Dance. This mixed reality experience will turn your real life environment into an epic Mission Impossible heist. You'll start off by ducking, climbing, and squeezing your way through an array of lasers, but as things get more intense over time, you're going to end up feeling like you have to dance your way through these lasers. Now, overall, I'm not expecting too much, but I think this will be a great mixed reality experience and an excellent way to show off your Quest 3 to friends. But jumping back to flat the pcvr ports, I have some high expectations for Roboquest. This was an absolutely beloved, flat-screen, fast-paced roguelite shooter that's making its way onto all VR platforms. I recently tried this at GDC, and the title did not disappoint. Graphically, the game looked fantastic on PCVR, the port was done extremely well with excellent motion controls, and while we might be sick of roguelites in VR, a good game is a good game, and I'm sure people will eat this one up. But I continue to be a sucker for co-op shooters, and that's why I've been watching Along Survive for quite some time. This is a co-op, wave-based survival shooter that has cross-play support with flat-screen gamers. Overall, it looks like a mix on games such as Killing Floor, Helldivers 2, with maybe a drop of GTFO in there. You need to manage your resources to either forge new weapons or build up base defenses, and it looks like co-op will be necessary for survival. Now, I know a wave shooter might sound bland in 2025, but if it does deliver a gameplay loop like Killing Floor or Helldivers 2, it's definitely going to be a win. And also the fact that it has cross-play with flat-screen gamers definitely increases my hope for this title. But now we're going to jump back in time a bit, because the original Boneworks is officially coming to the Quest 3. Now, I personally enjoyed the physics-based shooter Boneworks way more than Bone Lab. I personally felt like the underlying code base that controlled the physics wasn't as good in Bone Lab as it was in Boneworks, and it seems like that was the case. Developers Stress Level Zero recently spoke about how they had to completely overhaul the underlying engine to get all of Boneworks onto the Meta Quest. This was the mandatory foundation for not only that game, but for their upcoming future titles. Now, I'm just personally really curious to see if this new Quest 3 version does indeed feel like the original PCVR Boneworks. But I also don't want the same old experiences. That's why I'm happy to see our next title, Aces of Thunder, is something different. Now, surprisingly, VR does not have a lot of flight sim games. Anything would be welcome at this point, but it does look like this is panning out to be a solid title. Now, this is also another one of those simultaneous flat and VR mode releases, which hopefully continues to be a winning formula. In terms of gameplay, Aces of Thunder features World War II dogfighting in both multiplayer and solo missions. Overall, it looks like this can deliver on all cylinders: high quality graphics, crossplay and HOTA support, plus plenty of high quality content. Now, I'm not absolutely convinced there, but I'm cautiously optimistic. Exactly the same way I'm feeling about our next title, Exoshoock. This is another co-op shooter that I recently demoed and walked away with extremely high hopes. It's also taking inspiration from games like Dead Space, Helldivers 2, and VR Zone: From Other Suns. I personally love the art style and the highly immersive feel that the weapons give off, but I'm just not sure about the game's overall content yet because I haven't seen too much of it. Now, it's been a while since we had a good co-op shooter, so I really hope Exoshoock delivers and we get more of that classic From Other Suns gameplay. Now, it looks like our next title, Forefront, doesn't need any hope though, because it's coming from Triangle Factory, the same studio that delivered the absolutely fantastic shooters Hyperdash and Breachers. Now, this time they're planning to deliver some Battlefield-style action, featuring large-scale battles and player-controlled vehicles. This is up to 32 players fighting on the land, air, and sea, while utilizing vehicles like tanks and helicopters. There's also a specialized class system, so you'll play as things like Sniper and Medic, and this title even has destructible environments. Overall, this will be a brand new experience for VR. Nothing is really delivered on that same Battlefield-style experience, but if there's any studio that can pull it off, it's Triangle Factory. Now, there's just 2 games left on today's list, but just a reminder, these were ordered by expected release date. So coming in closer towards Halloween, we have Slenderman: The Arrival. This is a port of one of those classic horror walking sims. Unfortunately though, it's definitely not a nice stroll, as you're being stalked by one of the creepiest long-arm monstrosities ever. Slenderman is the stuff of nightmares, and if you're into VR horror games, this is going to be a must-play. And last up is another title that I know is going to be solid, and that's Titan Isles. This is another title that I demoed at GDC and was absolutely blown away. From the same studio that previously gave us Windlands 1 and 2, they're now moving into a co-op online shooter that supports up to 8 players. Now you get to choose from truly unique character classes, which not only come with different weapons and abilities, but also locomotion modes. Some of the suits are just way more agile and easier to maneuver. Now in combat, you'll have to learn how to best utilize your abilities, and that can range from protecting your teammates from bullet hell to sniping enemy weak points. It felt like one of those co-op titles that's going to require a lot of strategy, and maybe even scratch the same itch that Helldivers 2 does. Even if the gameplay loop ends up feeling completely different, I'm still extremely excited for this one. And that right there was today's list. Reminder, if any of these games excite you, please let me know which ones down below, or if I happen to miss a game. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, and as always, I'll see you guys on next time.